Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. Vanity of vanities. All is vanity. Everything is meaningless. Who is this preacher? Who is this guy? What is he actually talking about? Remember last week? Well, me neither, but one thing I do remember sharing with you is that the book of Ecclesiastes was most likely written by Solomon, even though he is not specifically mentioned here in the content of the book of Ecclesiastes. There are clues to his identity, however, starting right at the very beginning of this book in verse number 1. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Solomon was, of course, David's son and a king after all as well. This is the first point in his favor. It's not 100% guaranteed, but it certainly is something to consider. Secondly, Solomon had asked for wisdom from the Lord, which we can recall by revisiting the content of 2 Chronicles chapter 1, something I encourage you to do in your own time. However, in 1 Kings chapter 11, we see that Solomon had slipped, and had slipped badly. Now, King Solomon loved many foreign women, along with the daughter of Pharaoh, Moabite, Ammonite, Edomite, Sidonian, and Hittite women, from the nations concerning which the Lord had said to the people of Israel, "You shall not enter into marriage with them, neither shall they with you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods." Solomon clung to these in love. He had 700 wives who were princesses and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. For when Solomon was old, his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not wholly true to the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. Wow, right? Talk about a spectacular volte-face. From God-loving to turning his heart away from the Lord and onto countless women who had their own foreign gods instead. However, if our surmises are right about the authorship of Ecclesiastes, then we have to imagine and consider that Solomon had indeed seen the error of his ways, repented, and turned back to the Lord his God, our God. If so, what these 12 chapters give us is an incredible look at the world, through a pessimistic point of view, it has to be said, according to the preacher. What the writer does so skillfully is to not just remind us, but more critically, lays the reality of mankind after the fall in the Garden of Eden right before our very eyes. As we look at this text from Ecclesiastes chapter 1 together, we will see the phrase toiling under the sun. This is a phrase that repeats itself often in the book of Ecclesiastes, around 30 times throughout the entire book. And what this phrase refers to is life in the fallen world. That is the life the preacher experienced, and the one you and I encounter on a daily basis as well. The author in these verses today talks about the world as a never-ending cycle, from the viewpoint of nature, and then seen through the viewpoint of mankind. He talks as if life is monotonous, that while something might seem new, it has already been done countless times before. Like the teenager who might rebel and become a goth, thinking that they are being cool and really unique, not like anybody else. But the fact of the matter is that countless other people throughout the whole world have followed that same trend. Maybe even their grandparents as well. There is nothing new about what they are doing. As we continue scanning the contents, we are reminded of the endless repetition of the seasons and the endless repetition of life, which never seemingly produces anything new. In our final verse for today, we hear how the generations come and go and will be forgotten long into the future. Unless we have accomplished something great or meaningful, become famous, had a major impact on the world around us, then the likelihood is that those who will come in the future, great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren, and so on and so forth, will have absolutely no idea about who we are and what we managed to accomplish in our lives. Everything is meaningless, therefore. What do we gain for our toil under the sun? What is the point of doing anything if it has already been done before? Why do we bother if we're going to be forgotten anyway, long after we've been buried 6 feet under the ground? Lent is a time to reflect and ponder on those things. So let's try and look at it from our own point of view, our own perspective in 2021. What do we gain for our toil under the sun? Why do we bother? What is the point? Well, the fact of the matter is that it is all rather simple and should not be overcomplicated. By living the Christian faith and sharing it with others like our children, our families, our friends, our neighbors, and even strangers, we are doing what is right. What could be more important than that? What should take greater priority in our days under the sun, living in this fallen world? The answer, of course, is that our faith in Jesus Christ must always be central and integral. As we edge towards Maundy Thursday and Good Friday, where the cross looms ever larger, and then Easter Sunday when the stone was rolled away, we have to remember that it was that moment in history that rendered life anything but meaningless. It is Jesus, it is the cross, and it is his resurrection that makes things meaningful. Christ's death and resurrection were the most necessary events to ever occur on the face of this earth. Without the cross, without the open wounds, there would be nothing at all for us to cling on to. Our futures are dependent upon them, because if Jesus had not become the substitutionary atonement, our lives would be shrouded in misery. Everything would be rendered completely and utterly pointless without him. Sadly, that is what a life without Jesus is. It is hopeless. It is sad. It is meaningless. May that not be a life we seek or hope for others. Instead, we must continue to shine his light and share his word and truth to try and make sure that does not happen. Remember, dear friends, a life with Jesus has purpose. A life with Jesus has hope. A life with Jesus has light. A life with Jesus has meaning. To him be all the power and the glory. Amen.